Hey boys and girls, we are going to start chapter 8 today, and it's titled Ralph Speaks. I'm going to move a little bit so you can see a little bit better. I wonder what he's going to talk about. Ralph was tired of skulking about, hiding in mittens and boots, scrounging glue-flavoured seeds from the 4th grade mosaics, and eating sugar, which he'd overheard children say rotted teeth. He was nervous about the mouse hunt that was about to begin at Sneed Elementary School, all because he had innocently wanted to leave the inn to save an old man's job. Ralph felt that he was being blamed for everything that went wrong, and that trying to be good was not worthwhile. Ralph left Melissa's boot because he did not want Ryan to find him. He slipped behind a row of textbooks on health in a bookcase under the window and sat there, pondering large problems such as the unfairness of life and the shortage of liberty and justice for well-meaning mice. Ralph longed to return to the inn, but he knew that even if he found a way to get there, he could never face the jeering little relatives. First, they would demand to know what happened to his motorcycle. Then they would tell him it served him right that it was broken because he had been so selfish. But I've got to go someplace, Ralph decided. Perhaps he could move into a restaurant in Cucaracha. Now that the snow was melting, there was no longer any danger of being buried. However, his feet might freeze, or he might drown in dirty slush. He was too angry with Ryan to ask for help. What Ralph needed was transportation, other, of course, than feet. Ralph tried to make plans. If he could somehow get hold of the pieces of his motorcycle, if he could manage to nip off a strand of Miss Kay's strong hair, perhaps he could tie his motorcycle together again. While Ralph sat brooding behind the books, he was not forgotten by Room 5, who found the problems of a mouse much more interesting than making sentences out of spelling words. Hands were raised and questions asked. But Miss Kay, don't you think we should try to find Ralph? Somebody might step on him. Miss Kay, how are they going to investigate the school for mice? Miss Kay, will they poison Ralph? Miss Kay laid down her chalk and gave up trying to teach. Miss Kay, said Ryan, I'm sure Ralph is the only mouse here. He could have done all those things by himself. Ryan's remark gave the class hope for Ralph. I know what we could do, said Melissa. We could get him to walk across the stamp pad so he would leave purple footprints. That's a clever idea, isn't it? That way we could see if he went to the cafeteria and the library and all those places. Ralph groaned. Purple feet! That Melissa and her bright ideas. The class was quick to point out that the ink would soon wear off, that Ralph would have to keep running back to the stamp pad, which no mouse would do. Anyway, they would have to find him first. Well, class, said Miss Kay, I can see that we are not going to get any work done until we find out more about the superintendent's investigation. If you promise to work quietly on your spelling sentences, I will go ask Mr. Tanner what he plans to do. The class promised. Of course they would work quietly. Didn't they always work quietly when the teacher left the room? Ralph climbed to the top of the book to watch. As soon as Miss Kay left, Melissa, taking the precaution of leaving the door open, posted herself as a lookout. When the teacher was safely out of sight, everyone began to whisper at once. That doesn't happen in one tea, does it? Wads of paper flew back and forth. Ryan pulled the broken motorcycle out of his pocket and said to Brad, see what you did? By standing on his hind legs on top of a book, Ralph was able to see the remains of his motorcycle. More than Miss Kay's hair was needed to repair that wreck. His motorcycle was broken in 2 pieces. The muffler dangled, the spring forks were bent, the handlebars twisted. Ralph felt sick looking at it, sick and angry. And there's the broken motorcycle. Ralph scowled. Why don't you buy him another? You're a rich kid. Brad scowled. Why don't you buy him another? You're a rich kid. Why should he, thought Ralph. Brad was the one who broke it. I'm not a rich kid, Ryan said, astonished by Brad's remark. Then how come you live in a hotel? Demanded Brad. Because my mother works there, said Ryan. I eat in the kitchen with the maids and waitresses. Oh. Obviously, Brad had not known this. Where's your father? I don't know. Ryan was sensitive about the subject. Someplace, I guess. Psst, hissed Melissa and scooted back to her seat. Quiet as mice, thought Ralph, as heads bent over spelling words. Miss Kay was smiling as she walked to the front of the room. The class looked up, waiting for her answer. Mr. Crossman, the superintendent, telephoned Mr. Tanner this morning to ask about mice at Sneed, told the class. Mr. Tanner said he didn't think there was much to worry about, that the reporter got carried away. Mr. Crossman said that was good because since people voted for Proposition 13 and taxes had been cut, the school district couldn't afford an exterminator. Mr. Taylor told him not to worry, that he would have Mr. Costa set mousetraps overnight to see what happened. Mr. Crossman said there was enough money in the budget for 5 mousetraps. Traps, thought Ralph. What a joke! Was that the investigation? Someone asked. One phone call. Miss Kay laughed. That was the investigation. Even though the class was concerned for Ralph's safety, everyone felt let down. They had expected some excitement. A team of men in white uniform, perhaps, and the school closed for several days. All right, we'll stop chapter 8 there. We'll finish chapter 8 off on Wednesday. I hope you're still liking the story.